to share with us. So if you guys could all put your hands together and welcome Pastor Michael Ewart.
Thanks, everyone. Great to be here. One of the conditions I have for doing a presentation like this is that there must be at least 3 other mics present. And Mike was nice enough to accommodate that, so that's why I was able to come today. I'm Michael Ewart, so I used to be Mike, but when I got to 922 Ministries 9 years ago, there was already a Mike, Mike Novotny. So since we were going to be working together, we thought to make it more clear I could be Pastor Michael, and went back to Michael again. So that's what I go by now. So just a little bit about myself real quick, just so you know who is this guy presenting to you. Been in the ministry for 30 years now. I was a missionary in Russia for 12 years at the beginning of my ministry, and then 9 years in Midtown Omaha, Nebraska, and now 9 years at 922 Ministries at St. Peter and the Core. I'm primarily hubbed at the Core campus in downtown Appleton. We've got about 1,100 in worship on a Sunday. We've got a whole lot of young adults. Why am I qualified to talk to you today when I'm a 56-year-old man? Because I've raised 5 young adults and currently trying to raise a 6th. We have 6 children. 4 of them are all launched and married. Our 5th is a junior at MLC in New Ulm, and our final one is a 16-year-old, a sophomore at FVL in Appleton there. So I've got a little bit of experience raising them, and we serve a lot of them at our church as well. So I'm hoping that what I present today will be of use to you. As Mike was mentioning, I've got an analytical brain, which means I usually put too much in a presentation. But if you pay careful attention, you're going to learn something. You'll get something out of it. And the real benefit to this is what you talk about later in your breakout and what you put into practice. So everybody's going to have different takeaways when you have as much content as I do. So make sure you're writing down your particular takeaways that you want to share with your group later. Have in mind your group meeting. That's going to help you pay attention better as well. This is the absolute worst time to have a presentation, is right after lunch. I won't call you out if you fall asleep, as long as you don't call me out if I do. But I think we're going to learn a lot together. I think we're going to have fun together. I think this will be good. So with that, let's jump in. The title, You're Not the Main Character. It's always good to start by insulting people. No, it's not an insult, though. It's a truth and it's a reality that God calls us to embrace. So we've talked about what is it, and I really wish I could have been here last night to hear Pastor Wessendorf, right? To hear his presentation, that would have been great. That's the one I really wanted to present on. And then the one this morning was awesome. We're building on that now, and we're going to be focusing mostly on what does it look like to love our neighbor as ourself. And it only dawned on me yesterday. I was like, I wonder where they get their themes. Like, well, it's Valentine's Day. Of course we're going to talk about love. I should have figured that out sooner. Okay, so here's the paradox. This generation is the most connected ever. With social media, with our digital connections, with our phones always on us, it's not hard to make that argument that it is the most connected generation ever. You have the most tools ever at your disposal. There are more self-help books than have ever existed in all of humanity. There is more help at your fingertips than any generation has ever had. AI will answer any question that you have, and it will usually be pretty accurate, at least 80% of the time, if you don't count the hallucinations. And it'll benefit you in every aspect of your life. You've got all of these resources. This is the generation that's most in tune with feelings, that is most concerned about self-care. So with all of those things in mind, you've got this strange paradox that I present up there, that 79% of Gen Z report feeling lonely. The most connected generation has high percentage of people that feel lonely. People report fewer close friendships today than any previous generation. So this is a little bit complicated. When every previous generation was your age, when they were your age, fewer felt lonely than what people in your generation feel. By the way, when I say you or we, I'm not saying it's you in particular. I'm just saying things that are characteristic of young adults, typically according to statistics. Loneliness is an epidemic. It's a problem. Rates of clinical anxiety have doubled. That is a huge number, doubled clinical anxiety. In other words, if you're feeling anxious, you're not alone. It's a common issue in this generation. So we've been told focusing on ourselves, working on ourselves, establishing our boundaries, cutting ourselves off from toxic people, putting up walls. These are the ways that you can be safe and feel better about yourself. And the results prove the opposite, that it's not the way to feel better. It's not the way to flourish. It's not the way to connect with the world. So here's the issue that I think is at the root of it all. The main character syndrome. You've maybe heard that meme, "You're not the main character." Have you ever seen that one? They usually show it when somebody does something publicly that shows that they think that they're the center of attention, and then no, you're not the main character. But there is some truth to that statement. It's what people say, when they're dramatic or self-absorbed, and it's just not true, and it's not healthy. So I want to free you from this idea that you are the main character. So what does that look like? If you suffer from the main character syndrome, it means you walk into a room and you wonder what people are thinking about you. Okay, if it's all about me, I walk into a room. I wonder what they think about me right now. I wonder how they like my presentation. That if I'm thinking that, I'm thinking that I am the main character in the room. You replay conversations, analyzing how you came to how you came across. Just before we came in here, I was talking to Mike for a while there, and I wonder what he was thinking when I said this or that. And I wonder, I was really stupid when I said this, or when I said it that way. I wonder what he's thinking now. And where's all my attention? It's on me, right? You curate your life for an invisible audience. What are they going to think of me, whatever the circumstance, wherever you're at, with whatever friends you're with? That's the main character syndrome. I wonder what they're going to think about me. So I want them to see a certain side of me. I want them to see me in a certain way. So you curate your life, kind of like the social media thing, where you only show the best version of yourself. But that can kind of become a constant thing, is a tendency, and you find out you are always exhausted because you're always on stage. If you're ever around other human beings, I've got to put on this act, I've got to put on this front, I've got to show a certain face, be a certain way, and that is absolutely exhausting. If you can't be you, you're going to be exhausted. So that's main character syndrome. Actually, I'm going to back up to that just a second. It's not young adults only, by the way. I don't want to target, say you guys are all evil. That's not true. It's people of every generation. This is a human problem. We like to think we are the center of everything. Just this morning, actually it was last night, there was a woman in our church. She's in her upper 70s, super nice lady. My wife said, I talked to, I'm going to call her Jan. I talked to Jan, and she wanted to connect with you about something or another. And then I said, I really don't want to talk to her. She's like, why? Why don't you want to talk to her? And it wasn't until this morning that I was kind of thinking about, why did I not want to talk to her? And what I realized is she's got main character syndrome. Like whenever I have a conversation with her, it's always about her and her grandkids and what's going on in her life. And it's all centered on her. And it's exhausting to talk to her. And there's never a question about me or about anyone else. It's all about her. So it's people of every generation. We all tend to be self-centered. Okay. We think being the main character is about power. If it's about me, that's kind of a power play. I've got some authority, I've got some influence, but it's actually about pressure. And it's no wonder that we're anxious, because we weren't designed to carry that kind of weight. We weren't designed to be the center of everything. We weren't designed to thrive, to have the spotlight always on us. So that main character syndrome ultimately exhausts us, puts too much pressure on us, and wears us out. So, you were never meant to be the star. You were never meant to be the main character. You were meant to be a witness. By the way, if you're filling in blanks and you ever wonder, I don't feel like you really called out what goes in that blank, just ask what it was, and I may or may not know. But probably. Okay, so I'm kind of mixing metaphors here. You were never designed to be the star, the main character. You were designed to be a witness, and witness isn't really the same line. But God designed you to witness, to point people to Him. God designed for you to be the supporting character, not the main character, because Jesus is going to be at the center. So think about John the Baptist. I think maybe he's the best example of that. John the Baptist knew why he came. He came to be the forerunner of the Messiah. He didn't come to be the Messiah. He came to point people to Jesus, not to be Jesus. And he thrived in that role, and he was good in that role as he pointed people to Christ. Okay, keep moving. So why loving others is so hard, kind of getting more to our topic at hand. We can see why self-focus and self-attention, preserving self, protecting self, self-care, everything self-centered is not what's going to bring you ultimate fulfillment or thriving. What is, and I'm going to teach you that it's an others-centered life. And that's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And we're going to see why, first of all. Cultural patterns make love difficult for us, and really something in our own sinful nature makes that hard as well. So we tend to evaluate people like we evaluate content. First impressions often become final. We make snap judgments about people or situations. Sometimes they say you've got like 7 seconds to make an impression. Whatever you're thinking right now might be from our first 7 seconds together. 7 seconds together. There we go. But we tend to make those our final judgment. People become products to consume and discard instead of people to know and understand. And that's a cultural problem that we have to deal with. When I say cultural problem, don't dismiss yourself from that. Even though you are Christians, you have God's worldview, you have the Bible informing you. Somebody described culture like a stream. You ever stood in a stream or in a river? Do you feel the pull of it, even if you're trying to stay in one spot, that it's always pushing against you? And if you're walking around in that river, you might not notice that 10 minutes later you're actually quite a bit downstream because you just moved with it and you didn't even notice that you were. So we are a part of this culture, and it really does have influence on us. Okay, keep going. We diagnose instead of relate. So more than any other generation, I've noticed that young adults use a lot of mental health language. You're more comfortable with counseling than any previous generation. I think that's a good thing. You're comfortable talking about feelings. That's awesome. But I think sometimes the mental health language and terminology, we use it to label people, to define people, and that's not always good or healthy. More than any other time in my life, in the last 5 years, I've heard people say, this person or that person's a narcissist. Sometimes they'll even say it to their face. You're a narcissist. I was just talking to a guy in our church who is a counselor, a professionally trained master's in counseling counselor, and he said, I hate that phrase. Like, there are not that many narcissists out there. And yet we just, anybody that does anything that offends us or seems a little bit self-centered, we don't see it in ourselves, but we see it in others very clearly, they are a narcissist. And actually, they're probably not. But it's a label that we can put on so that we can avoid that person and avoid toxic people. They have an attachment style or an attachment disorder. We very quickly can label those things. And it explains them away instead of us seeking to understand them. And that is not beneficial. It's so easy to explain away others that challenge us in any way rather than seeking to understand them. And there is true blessing in trying to understand. I've set boundaries sometimes means I've decided that you're not worth the effort. It's another way of saying that, not so nicely, but nicely. We've turned psychological language into a weapon for avoiding people. By the way, just a quick word about boundaries. You can set your own boundaries, but your boundaries don't apply to others. We had a next door neighbor who, I won't go into the whole issue, but she told us recently that we violated her boundaries when we did a certain thing. No, your boundaries don't apply to our household. Your boundaries are for your house, and you can have a boundary that we're not allowed to invade your life in this way because you set a boundary, but you can't dictate our behavior in our household or in our property because of what you don't want. Boundaries don't work that way. If you heard this whole story, you'd know that I'm not being a jerk right now. But your boundaries are only for, they are your boundaries. You cannot impose your boundaries outside of you. You can't impose your boundaries on someone else and say that them doing what you don't like violates your boundaries. You can separate yourself from them. That would be enforcing your boundary. But you don't get to tell them what they should do, what they can or can't do, because that's outside of your authority. You can set boundaries for your life. You can't set boundaries that impact or affect other people's lives. And you can tell somebody, if you speak to me in this way, I'm going to walk away because that's inappropriate when you talk to me that way. That's a fine boundary, and when they talk to you inappropriately, you walk away. But you can't say, my boundary is that you never talk that way. You don't have that authority. They'll do what they want to do. You can't set boundaries for them. You can only set boundaries for you. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's a little bit of a digression. Like I said I share too much information. You take out of it what you like. Yeah, okay. Covered that one. Protect your peace. At first glance sounds wise. But what tends to happen is that the guarded life isn't actually the peaceful life. The guarded life, if your guards are up too high, is a lonely life. It's an isolating life. We've been told that self-protection is a path to flourishing. And I'm here to tell you it's isolating, not flourishing. And that's not always beneficial. The truth is this, that discomfort and stress are not in and of themselves bad things. Stress helps you grow. And I think everybody needs to hear that. Stress helps you grow. There's a guy in our church, a young adult, who has gone through 13 jobs in the last year, or I don't know what it is exactly, but he stays at a job for 3 weeks or for 2 months at the most. And at some point during his employment, something gets stressful and he quits. And I don't think that's good for flourishing. Through the stressful times, as we deal with difficult people and as we have difficult conversations and as we work through the hard things, we grow. It stretches us. It strengthens us. Stress is not a bad thing. A ton of stress is a bad thing. It can eventually crush you. But some stress is a really good thing. It will make you a stronger, more resilient person as you work through the stress. So the guarded life isn't the peaceful life, it's the lonely life. So people are messy. Showing love is hard. And the solution is just avoid people. No, the solution is work through the mess and the stress, and you will be more blessed and stronger through it. All right, here's one of my nerdy slides. The algorithm of stress, of the self. The algorithm of the self. So I'm a techie guy. Love AI. If you want to learn anything about AI, let me know. But when it comes to your phones, you know these algorithms they've got out there, and the more you use your phone, the more you're on social media, the algorithms learn more about you, and they feed you more things. Did you know that ultimately all those algorithms are designed to turn you in on you? It's the algorithm of self. It's this figuring out what engages you the most. What are your preferences? What do you want to see? What do you want to hear? What opinions that you have do you want to be confirmed in you? It's an echo chamber. Whatever you think, whatever you feel, whatever you want, whatever your preference, the algorithms are designed to figure that out and feed that to you to confirm that loop that affirms yourself. It's the algorithm of self. And we love it. We eat this stuff up because we want ourselves to be the center of attention. This main character syndrome is something that I believe we all struggle with. So every feed is personalized to you. Every ad is targeted to your specific desires. Every notification pulls you back into your story. This is the way it's all designed. Um, we're given this illusion that we are genuinely independent and free, and yet all of the companies behind all of these social media and online experiences are designed specifically to actually control you by giving more of you to you, if that makes any sense. The more that you are fed with what you want, the more you are engaged, and the more you are at the center, the more you eat that up, and it's this vicious loop that is really actually very dangerous. And we just need to call it out, and we need to see it. And I feel it too. I'm not saying this is just young adults. This is me too. I have to watch out for this, and I can recognize this in the things that social media feeds me. So the devil and the world are saying, you should be self-seeking. And God says, love is not self-seeking. Like he says the exact opposite. And we live in a world that teaches us to be self-seeking. So, when everything is about you, everything can hurt you. There's a tweetable phrase. What do they say now, by the way? It's not Twitter anymore. That's an Xable phrase. They don't say that, do they? What? Anybody? I don't know what they say. Okay, so how does this affect me is the primary question that everybody is asking, and I don't think that's the right question. When I'm the main character, other people exist to serve my story. Other people exist to support and give me my comfort. My judgment is always assumed to be accurate. My peace is the scarce resource that everybody is trying to threaten, and therefore I need to cut out anybody that might threaten my peace. Everyone who isn't clearly always for me is against me, we might conclude. The self-focus that's supposed to make us stronger is actually making us fragile. The bigger we make ourselves, the smaller the world gets. I tried to make an AI illustration of that. It didn't turn out perfectly, but if you stand close to a mirror, really close to a mirror, what do you see? You only see you, right? But what if you have a big mirror and you step way back from it? Now you can see everything around you in that mirror as well. You can see yourself in the context of your surroundings. So the smaller you make yourself, the bigger your world can be. I think that's important. Okay, so, whoops, don't want to skip that one for sure. So this is a callback to yesterday evening, I assume. Tell me if this isn't what Pastor Wessendorf taught about. But there is one true main character, right? And that main character is, of course, Jesus. And what is the character of Jesus? What do we know about him? What do we see about him? Jesus did not consider equality with God to be used for his own advantage. Okay, Jesus is the Son of God. How many? Quick show. If you think of one, raise your hand. How many miracles did Jesus do for his own benefit? Anybody? I'm seeing somebody do it. I can't think of any. Maybe incidentally benefited from turning water into wine. We're not told he actually drank any. So, yeah, good. Good minds think alike. Non-Mikes thought the same way. That's good. But we're never even told that Jesus tried it. Maybe he did. But what was one of the temptations when Jesus was in the wilderness? The first one was Satan said, turn this stone into bread. Wasn't that a self-serving, a miracle that he could have performed for his own benefit? But Jesus did not. It was, even though he is the main character, he came to earth not to, in a sense, not to be the main character where everybody would bow down and worship him and he would sit in a throne in a palace somewhere. But Jesus came not to serve, but not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Jesus is the main character Or if you want to broaden that, say God is the main character, not us. He created us to be in a dependent relationship on him, not independent from him. Where did things go wrong? It's when Satan declared his independence from God. Where did things go wrong in the Garden of Eden? It's when man and woman declared their independence from God. God said, don't eat of this fruit. And Adam and Eve said, we don't have to listen to you. You're not the boss of me. I will eat of this fruit because it's good. The serpent said so. They declared their independence from God. And that is not a life of thriving. We were not intended to thrive being cut off from the vine any more than a branch cut off from its its stalk or whatever. It's not going to thrive cut off. It needs to be connected. Who is Jesus? He is the Son of God in human flesh. He is the one who came to rescue us and to save us. He is the one who took our blame and our guilt and our shame. He is the one who bled and died for the guilt of our sins so that we can be one with God, reunited with him, loved by him, that we would have purpose and meaning in this world, and that we would have hope and certainty for the one that is yet to come, the perfect world where God has promised we will spend eternity. That's the main character, not us. And that is a freeing thing. So, will I trust me and keep myself as the main character, or will I trust Jesus and let him be the main character? Will I follow my desires? Will I make myself the center of my universe? Or am I going to allow Jesus to be the center of the universe for me? Will we follow him or will we follow me? And that's what it's ultimately about. When I let Jesus be the main character, I go where Jesus goes. I follow him lockstep. And where I want to be independent of him, Jesus, you go on your way, I'm going to go this way, and I will serve me and my needs because I want to be the center of all things. That's where we will not thrive. So, following Jesus, we want to be with him. We want to become like him. And we want to ultimately do as he did. Because he is the one who rescued us and saved us. So if anyone had a reason to diagnose us and dismiss us, it would be Jesus. But instead of diagnosing us and dismissing us, he delivered us at great personal cost to himself. And that's what true love does. That's what love looks like. So living in that love, knowing that love, rejoicing in that love, we can live out that love in our daily life. And it is the most blessed and fulfilling living. So Jesus said this, love your neighbor. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. We understand who is at the center. We understand God. He is first. He is our Savior. We are living dependent upon him. We understand ourselves in view of that. That was what this morning was about. And now we can look out and say, what does it look like now to live following Jesus? We love our neighbor as ourself. So what does that mean? Love your neighbor as yourself is not a command to love yourself first. We talked about this morning. They said that they might have stolen some of my material, and they did, but that's okay. No, that's all right. It's a good review. Love doesn't mean love yourself first. It assumes you already do love yourself. I can, taking a quick scan over the audience, I can see you all clothed yourself today. Well done. Is anybody starving right now? No, me neither. So whatever your view of yourself, some of you might not love your body image, or there's something about yourself you don't like. We all have that. But you take care of yourself, and nobody has to usually remind you to. How many of you brushed your teeth in the last 24 hours? Maybe I shouldn't ask that one. If you forgot your toothbrush at home, we forgive you. They have them at the front desk, by the way. But you probably brushed your teeth in the last 24 hours. You do these basic self-care things because you love yourself, and it's just natural. You just do it. So it assumes you already do love yourself. You already do these things. So when it says love your neighbor as yourself, that's not the measure. As yourself isn't the measure. I mean, it is the measure. It's not the source. The source of loving your neighbor isn't yourself. We're going to see that is Jesus. But the measure of love for others is yourself. In other words, what would you do for you? If you run into somebody, a friend, an acquaintance, a total stranger. If that was you, what would you do for you? Well, I guess that's what I should do for them. That's what it means. That's the measure of love that you have for the other. Love your neighbor as yourself. Take that same instinct that you have for self-care and apply that to the people around you. So love isn't sentimental, it's practical action for someone's good. It's tiny print in there, Leviticus 19. I know I'm partially blocking the screen for some of you. But when it was originally said, Jesus was quoting from Leviticus 19 when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. In Leviticus 19, he was talking about, there was other context that said, don't steal, don't lie, don't hold grudges, pay workers on time. This is all in Leviticus 19. And what it's teaching us is, again, love isn't a sentiment, it's not a feeling, it's action, it's doing. If you're filling in those blanks, it's practical action for someone's good. I think that's a good definition of love. Practical action for someone's good. You know, the phrase, action speaks louder than words. I do love all the people around me. What have you done for anybody today? Nothing. Okay, that's a sentiment, but it's not action. And Jesus describes love as action. There's a great book, by the way. Bob Goff wrote a book called Love Does. Really great book. My wife and I read that one together, and that's the whole premise of the book, that it's not a sentiment, it's stuff in action. He's a really good writer. A lot of books these days are instructional and self-help, and they're kind of dry. That's why I don't write one, because that's what mine would be. But this is a guy who knows how to write and tell really good stories. If you're looking for a good book about love, Love Does is a good one. Bob Goff, Goff, I believe. So just the quick reminder, I won't spend a lot of time on this slide. Your neighbor isn't just the people you like, it's the person in front of you. All right, I was going to give you the example, but you're going to give it to me. Story from the Bible that teaches this? Good Samaritan, good job. Like literally, that's the point of the whole parable, why Jesus taught it. So who is my neighbor? Let me tell you a parable Jesus says. And he talks about the Samaritans, which the Jews hated. He's the one that gets, that Jesus shows that love is for all. It's the person in front of you, not just the person that's like you. All right, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that one. So, turn my page. You've heard 1 Corinthians 13. How many of you have ever stood up in a wedding or been in a wedding or are married? Any of those? Most of you. How many of you in a wedding have ever heard 1 Corinthians 13? Love is patient, love is kind. A lot of you. And if you haven't heard it yet and you are going to be in a wedding, you'll probably hear it again. It's probably the most common wedding verse. And I see why, because it does describe what does God-like love look like. But read 1 Corinthians 13, and what you'll find is it's not actually about marriage at all. So even though it might be familiar to you, I want to spend a little bit of time on 1 Corinthians 13 with you. We're not going to unpack every little love is statement, because we don't have enough time for that, but I'll just pick maybe 3 or 4 of them to look at with you. The church to whom Paul taught 1 Corinthians 13 had some really big problems and issues. In fact, I would say it was the original confused main character church. The people in this church did not understand that they are not the main character. There was a lot of selfishness happening in this church, a church that was extraordinarily gifted with amazing spiritual gifts that makes our jaw drop, but they couldn't get along. They were splintered into personality cults. Oh, I follow Paul. Well, I follow Cephas. I follow Apollos. Well, I follow Jesus. You guys are all losers because I follow Jesus directly. And they just were splitting up over the dumbest things because they all wanted to be right and thought that they were at the center of all things. There's a story in there about the wealthier members gorging themselves before they would be celebrating the Lord's Supper together and probably getting drunk as well, while the less well-off members sitting nearby just looking over, wishing that they could have a bite to eat. And all right, now let's just all get together and celebrate our unity with communion. And Paul said, no, you guys, you don't understand what's going on here. It was a mess there. And then they would rank spiritual gifts like a leaderboard. If you got this gift, then you're a super Christian, and if you don't, then you're not. And just a mess of a church. And it's to that church, Paul said, you guys don't get what love is. Let me teach you from God what love is really like. And that's when he shared 1 Corinthians 13, 4 to 8. Let me just read it through, and then we'll just highlight a few of them and then keep moving. So love is patient. Love is kind. Let me pause. While I'm reading it, since this was already pretty familiar to most of you, put your own name in. Mike did that earlier. I can always just say Mike because one of them said it, right? No, Mike said earlier to put your name in when he was doing that confession of sins. I really like that. That was powerful. So do that now mentally. I'm not going to make you do it out loud, but mentally put your name in. Everywhere you see the word love, insert your name. And at the end, tell me how that felt. Okay. Is patient. Love, Mike, John, I covered most of the guys, is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love, Michael, never fails. Does that feel comfortable to put your own name in there? Didn't feel comfortable to me because I couldn't tell the truth on all of those. Can you think of examples from the last week where your love wasn't patient? Where kindness, I think, is more love. It's an action. Kindness isn't a thought or a feeling for sure, right? Where your love was kind, where you did or said the kind, loving thing. Were you ever envious? Did you ever boast? Were you ever proud? Did you dishonor anybody? Were there any time in this last week when you were self-seeking? So it's uncomfortable when we read that list and put our own name in it, right? How about if we would read it one more time? I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but what if we read the whole thing again and we put Jesus in there instead of the word love? Would you feel comfortable with that? And I bet we could this would be really fun. I wish we had more time, but it would really be fun to go through that and try to think of concrete examples. Somebody give me an example. Let's do it for one. Jesus is patient. Give me some evidence. Disciples? So many times if I was Jesus, I'd have a bruised forehead. I would be hitting my head against a wall so many times. How could they not get it? Like literally, Jesus is going to be hanging on a cross the next day. Can we be on the right? Me and my brother, one on the right, one on the left. Would that be okay in your kingdom? Like they even at the end, they're not getting it. And did Jesus yell at them? Did he just march off and zip back up into heaven and avoid the cross because of that? No, he was patient with them, and he taught them so patiently again and again and again. Anyway, it would be fun to go through this whole list and think of concrete examples where Jesus fit every one of these perfectly. So the point being, though, you have not been perfectly loving. We haven't fit this description perfectly. Jesus did. Jesus is your substitute. Think of him as that before you think of him as your coach. Okay, I would be a really bad pastor if I stood up here and I said, you go do what Jesus did. He was a loving man, and you should be loving too. What's more important than that? He was loving for you. He was loving as you. He went to a cross to sacrifice himself for you. He went to a cross and sacrificed himself as you, so that in Christ you are beautiful to your Heavenly Father. You look loving to your Heavenly Father. Because you stand in Christ, his record becomes yours, and you can, with a clear conscience, read through that list another time and put your name in there, and it's true because you have Jesus' record counted as yours. Now, isn't that beautiful? Isn't that awesome? Doesn't that fill you with joy and peace? Don't you want to live out what God declared you to already be? So Christianity is not about becoming what you aren't. It's about living up to who you already are. You already are a child of God. You already are heaven bound. You already are declared not guilty and pure and holy in God's sight. Those things are already yours. Now let's go do that. That would be fun. I want to meet the description. I want to live that way today. And that is what God is calling us to when he says to love one another. So a quick highlight of just a few of these. I think I have 4 of them on here. Love is patient. And with each of these, I want to give you a cultural contrast. The culture we live in is instant everything. Patience is not a thing at all. One bad impression and you're out. We don't have any patience with anybody. We give people one chance and then we move on. There's this social media dogpiling. Like one person jumps on somebody and then a whole bunch of other people do. Brain's going so many different ways. There's a lot of research that gets done. Have you ever seen that? Like on Reddit, somebody does something bad and then there's a community of people that start to do research on this person. They find out where he lives and they give his address out and then they put a phone number and then the person starts getting lots of phone numbers. Like it's social media dogpiling on a person. Patience is not a part of our culture. Love doesn't let small offenses become big grievances. It chooses to ignore the bait and refuses to participate in that digital dog pile. So a question to ask yourself, how many chances do you give people? How patient are you with people? So patience means you stay in the room and it would be easier to leave. And that might be literally true. They just hurt me. I'm going to walk out. Patience would say, no, I'm not going to walk out. One time I lost patience with somebody because they weren't being patient. I just remembered that. That's not good. What is patience? Another way of describing patience is going at the pace of another. So my wife and I were in an airport trying to make a connection, and we were late. And my wife runs, and I don't run so much. I'm more of the weightlifter, maybe HIIT workout kind of person, but she runs like every day. So we needed to run in order to make this flight. And she was running ahead of me. And when she saw she was getting too far ahead and that we wanted to fly together, she slowed down. She was patient. She wanted to go at my pace so that we could be together. Until we got to the gate in sight, and then she just sprinted ahead. And her thought later, she defended herself saying, if I could get them to hold the plane door open, then you could get on too. Like, thanks, dear. But she was practicing patience. To go at the pace of the other, and of course not just physically. If you're going for a walk with somebody, if you walk 10 paces ahead, you're not going to have a very good conversation. But also mentally, or wherever somebody is at in their walk with Christ, patience goes at their pace. That's what Jesus did for his disciples, and we as his disciples would do that for one another too. Love is not easily angered. In some ways, this is similar. There's this outrage lifestyle, the dogpiling that happens. I think I actually gave all my illustrations for this one and the last one. So how fast do you go from annoyed to this person is toxic? You label them and you have nothing else to do with them. That's a love that's easily angered. So what's your anger level? Can you bring that down? Love keeps no record of wrongs. Saving that screenshot for later use if you need it. Keeping mental files on everyone and everything that they've ever done to you. You can instantly retrieve past statements from people that posted on social media. There are ways to do that pretty easily with AI or just through internet searches. You can probably build a case against anyone in the court of legal opinion just by curating what you would pull from their past or what you know about them. Love keeps no record of wrongs. Love, that means actively choosing amnesia over offenses. So we choose to forget what somebody has done wrong and put the best construction on it. Look at them in the best light instead of the worst light. Now, that does not mean ignoring past patterns of abuse or continuing patterns of abuse. I'm not talking about that. Keeping yourself safe is a good thing. If somebody is abusive, you don't say, they might tell you, well, love keeps no record of wrongs. You have to forgive me. That Jesus forgave everybody. You can forgive them. You don't hold that bitterness in your heart, but you also protect yourself. There is a place for putting up the boundary and staying away from a toxic person, but I think that happens far too often. And we need to distinguish between a toxic person and just a difficult relationship that needs to be mended. Love keeps no record of wrongs. There was there's a guy that started coming to our church. His name is Kenny, and he was released from prison and had a real offense. He had been sentenced to over 80 years and was released when Governor Ebers released a whole bunch of people a few years ago. Started coming to our church, and he is on the registry. He became a close personal friend of our family. We befriended him. We started talking to him. Super nice guy. He's this big black guy with a patch, kind of scary looking, and my kids are calling him Uncle Kenny. And he anybody that's on the record or on the registry for anything, it is. My eyes have been opened over the last few months how impossible it is for them to reintegrate into society. Like the world has labeled them permanently, and there are no opportunities. It's extremely difficult to get hired. Very few people will rent to him, and so he had 2 months in like a halfway house, and then he was supposed to find his own housing. And he worked it. He tried. We were helping him. He had resources. There were probably 20 people from our church that were walking with him and helping him. But the world keeps a record of wrongs. And it didn't matter how much accountability he was building in. It didn't matter what he said or how he was trying or how many people would vouch for him. Nobody would help him. Well, finally, my wife and I said, Kenny, you can't live out on the street. We've got to know you really well. Why don't you come and live in our house? We've got room in our basement. It's not being used. You'll have your own bathroom down there. And so we made plans to have Kenny move in with us. We decided we should do the right thing for our neighbors. We're going to take him around he's going to move in on Monday afternoon. Sunday, we just looked around who was home. We thought more of our neighbors would be home than there were. We found 3 different houses where there were people home. Took Kenny to their house. We just want you to get to know our friend Kenny here. Yeah, he's down and out right now. We just want you to know he's going to be in the neighborhood. If you see his blue Civic in our driveway, that broken down Civic, that's okay. That's Kenny. He's a cool guy. We know him really well. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. We're happy to tell you more about Kenny. Less than 24 hours later, our neighborhood, which is really disconnected, like nobody knows anybody, and we've tried, they had the pitchforks out and the torches lit, and they were coming after us. Like, it was crazy how fast they mobilized against us, because they looked up Kenny, they found out that he was on the registry, and no questions, just, he's not going to live in our neighborhood. You can't do this. And our next door neighbor called my wife over and said, I suffered from a sexual abuse 8 years ago, and this is too traumatic for me, and I have boundaries. This is what I was talking about earlier. I have boundaries, and you can't have him in your house. Like, actually, legally, we can. There's absolutely nothing anybody can say about it. Anyway, we had this big crisis, and long story short, we could either burn every friendship in the neighborhood, every hope of ever, anybody in our neighborhood ever talking to us, or we could try to find another solution for Kenny. And finally, we had to balance love for them, for love for him, and how do you show love to both? It was impossible, and we ended up paying for Kenny to stay in a hotel as we continued to try to find a place for him to find housing. But love keeps no record of wrongs, but our society sure does. So what does that look like for us? It means loving like Jesus loved, and forgiving the past, and treating people with the love that Jesus shows us. Oh man, do you have 3 hours? The Kenny story is a very long one. Unfortunately, he is back in jail now, as of about a week ago. And due to some poor decisions he made, in spite of the mentoring he was receiving, he might be there a while. If he should get out again, he's cut to the heart. He's truly repentant. Pastor Mike was able to visit him last week, and he was sobbing in his shoulder, like for a solid minute straight. So he made some poor choices and ended up going back to jail. So I'll be visiting him this Sunday, and that'll be my first opportunity to talk to him face to face. But no regrets about the investment we made in him. Is this where we hoped it would end up right now? No. But our family and my wife and I we are so enriched, and our eyes are so open to so many new things. And he has been a blessing to us with the love that he has shown us too. So, always love. Okay, next one. Love always protects. We live in a culture that is extraordinarily cynical. We are disappointed before anything happens to disappoint us because we're just anticipating we're going to get disappointed anyway. The social media algorithms train us to spot patterns and predict failure, and we're not surprised when we see it. But hope refuses this script. It doesn't ignore the evidence of character, but it resists the temptation to declare somebody's trajectory already settled. We hope for the best, and we invest in people thinking about the best. And as a pastor, I've come to believe that's one of my primary jobs. And whenever I do any counseling with anybody, my primary objective is to give hope. If there's a couple that comes in and their marriage is a shambles, like I literally had a couple that was 2 weeks out from filing for divorce. They had the papers, they were ready. No, I'm sorry, they had already filed for divorce. It was 2 weeks away from being finalized. And that was when they first came to the pastor. As usual, the people come when it's too late. But I painted the picture for them of what it could look like to have a godly marriage. Said, I don't want you to go back to your old marriage. That's why you're getting a divorce. And that would not be a good marriage at all. I understand why you're getting divorced from that marriage. But I think you could have a good one. I think you could have a blessed one where you love each other, where you're investing in each other, where you care about each other, where she's respecting you and you are loving and cherishing her. I could see that happening. And I know both of you, and I see the issues that you're facing. They all look like they could be resolved to me. Anyway, they within a week, they canceled their divorce, and they are still together. And they're working on their marriage. We just had a meeting last week. Are things perfect? No. Are things getting better? Yes, they are. Love always hopes. I can see the best. I can hope for the best. I can see a better future, and that is what we are striving for. So, love. Did I skip? Did I not have this one up? Anyway, that's what I was talking about. Love hope. Love always hopes. I think I had protects up, and I was talking about the other one. I think I didn't talk about protecting, did I? Sorry. I jumped a slide. Okay, so love always protects. Cultural contrast, there's currency in calling people out, sharing their failures and embarrassments for likes and retweets, re-X's, whatever you want to call those. So love always protects, though. Do we need to say what we're about to say? Do you protect people's dignity when they're not in the room? There's a question to wrestle with. Ask the question, does this need to be public? Don't ask the question, is this true? That's not the right question. It might be true, and you still shouldn't share it. Ask the question, am I protecting them by saying this or sharing this? Sometimes sharing something hard or bad about somebody with the right person is protecting them. But oftentimes, maybe a majority of the times it isn't. We're sharing it not to protect them, but to build up self, to make ourselves look good. So the question to wrestle with, should I share this? But then ask the question, and why? And why? Okay, and then the hope one. In your breakout group, maybe make sure you ask this. Which of these that we've talked about is the hardest one for you right now? Which is the hardest for you right now? And next week it might be a different one that's harder for you. But I think this is where we can get kind of personal. We can share some real stories. For me, right now, hope is hard because fill in the blank. Or maybe you pick a different one. At the end of the day, why do we love? We love because he first loved us, because Jesus is patient with us, because Jesus gives us a certain hope for the future no matter what. And because he loves us, we overflow with that very same love for others. All right. So we want to guard without closing. Guarding without closing. So some of you are thinking, if I love like this, that puts me in a vulnerable place. I'll get hurt. And I'll be honest. You might. When you love like Jesus loved, you might get hurt like Jesus got hurt. While you might get hurt, you won't regret it. Proverbs 4:23 rightly warns us or advises us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. This isn't necessarily about guarding your heart from sin and folly. It is about guarding your heart from sin and folly, not guarding your heart from people. Okay, now, whenever I say that, again, abuse is a separate category. I'm not talking about that. And if you're dealing with that situation, don't apply this advice. But in the vast majority of situation, guarding your heart doesn't apply to people. It applies to sin and folly and letting that into your heart. It's about what you let in, not keeping everyone out. It's about what you let in to your heart that you need to guard, not the people you're keeping out. All right, wrapping it up here. I see what's happening. This thing jumps forward sometimes. Walls versus roots. Walls versus roots. The most resilient people aren't the ones with the thickest walls. They're the ones with the deepest roots. The most resilient people aren't the ones with the thickest walls. They're the ones with the deepest roots. So the question isn't, how do I build thicker walls? Because that's what's going to keep me safe. But how do I get more deeply rooted in Christ? How do I get more deeply rooted in my faith? How do I get more deeply rooted in the Christian community in which God has placed me, with the Christian friends that God has given me? How do I get more deeply rooted in His Word through daily devotions and Bible study? How do I become more resilient that way and not build the higher walls? When your identity is secure in Christ, and it is, you can afford to be hurt sometimes, and it's worth the risk. You can absorb an offense without it destroying you. You can. And you can love someone who disappoints you because your worth doesn't depend on their response. Main characters, honestly, are fragile. So if you see yourself as the main character, you're in a tenuous position. Supporting characters are free because the outcome doesn't depend on you. If you're the supporting character, not the main character, the outcome doesn't ultimately depend on you. So, walls versus roots. Love, I like this last statement, I almost missed it. Love isn't a drain on your battery, it's the way you recharge. Love isn't a drain on your battery. Like, oh, I've been loving too many people. I got to have a me day. I bet that you will feel more drained after your me day than you do after a day of love. The truth is that when you invest in others and love others well, that recharges your battery. Sometimes the people who are most struggling with anxiety and depression are people that are the most isolated and the most main character-ish. The ones that are least investing in others. Not always, that's not the only reason, but oftentimes you see that that's the case, a pattern that I've noticed. 10-second rule. I'm not talking about dropping food on the floor. This is a different 10-second rule. You can follow that one too if you want. But here's something practical to take away. The next time somebody interrupts your day or annoys you or doesn't meet your expectations, before you react, take 10 seconds. In those 10 seconds, ask one question. How can I be a supporting character in their story right now? Okay, your inclination is to cut them off, yell at them, talk about them, label them, diagnose them, fight all of those urges. Take 10 seconds and say, how can I be the supporting character for them in their situation right now? You're not asking, how do I protect myself? How do I win this interaction? How do I come out of this looking good? Those are all the wrong questions. But how can I help them the most? How can I love them? So Martin Luther had a simple test. When you see another person, any person, including the person that just hurt you or annoyed you, or that you are tempted to label or diagnose, just say, this is someone for whom Christ died. This is someone for whom Christ died. And see if that doesn't change how you look at them and how you see them. And final slide here. You were never meant to be the star. You're not the main character. And that's the best news that you'll hear all day. You're not the main character. The main character has to win, has to be right, has to be validated. And that's not you. That's your God. That's exhausting if you make it you. So stop living that way. But if Jesus is the main character, and he is, then you're free. Free to love people who don't love you back. Free to keep no record, free to hope, free to be patient, free to keep no record of wrong. You can be fully confident that Jesus will carry the production. You don't need to. So in my early days of ministry, this was after my time in Russia. I had been in Omaha for maybe a couple of years, and it was a Sunday morning. I'm putting my tie on, getting ready for church, thinking about the two worship services that were going to take place, the Bible class in between. It's exhausting. I'm an introvert by nature. And to spend a whole day with people and to be on for that many hours, I was honestly starting to dread it, wondering, I wonder if people are going to like my sermon today. I wonder how they'll like the Bible class that I prepared. I really put a lot of time in that. I wonder how people are going to greet me today. I wonder if they're going to compliment my sermon when they leave today. And why didn't they compliment my sermon when they left today? And I went to this was my morning routine on Sunday mornings, and I started to dread Sunday mornings more and more, and it became really draining and really exhausting. And then I don't know exactly when, but at one point this thing dawned on me. Maybe I should go to church today to serve them. How's that for a pastoral insight? That's what we study the scriptures for. And I literally changed my mindset, and I said, first I asked God to forgive me when I recognized this sin I was committing. And I said, today, I'm going to love people. I'm going to greet people. I'm going to make them happy that they came to church today. I'm going to invest in them. I'm going to share God's word with them. And if they don't like it, they don't like what God has to say. So this is literally what I do every time I go in the pulpit now. If I don't physically do it, I at least imagine it in my mind. As I'm getting up to preach, I'm thinking this. There's usually a cross behind you, right? And I'm just thinking, I'm going to preach to you now, but I'm going to try to get out of the way. I'm just going to show you Jesus. And in other words, taking myself out of the main character role. And I can tell you now, Sunday mornings are my very favorite time of the week, because I realized I am not the main character. Even as the pastor of a church on a Sunday morning, I am not the main character, and Jesus is. And when I let him be the main character, that was so freeing. And I believe that it will be for you too. So love your neighbor as yourself. Love because he first loved you.